What happens when two people in love make plans? But a jealous ex has other plans, and his obsessions could move him to kill. This is the story of late Patrick De La Cerda and his fiancée Jessica. Jessica Devnani stood in her kitchen on the morning of February 27, 2018, waiting for a knock on the door that would never come. She'd braided her hair the way Patrick liked, loose, soft, a little wild. He said it made her look like summer. That morning felt like one. Warm sunlight spilled across the floor, her heart dancing with it. He had texted her just after 6 a.m. Getting ready. I love you. See you soon. They had plans. Big ones. She thought he'd show up with a ring. Instead, the phone rang. Instead, everything shattered. 1 month earlier, Patrick De La Cerda was 25 years old. Half French, half Spanish, fluent in poetry and tenderness. He lived in a quiet part of Deltona, Florida, in a house his parents helped him buy. Nestled in a sleepy cul-de-sac, lined with palm trees and still mornings. Patrick wasn't flashy. He worked hard, loved harder. And he loved Jessica like she was gravity. They had met a year and a half ago. Jessica had just gotten out of something messy, something dark. She rarely talked about her ex, but Patrick knew he was older, wealthy, and intense. At first, Patrick didn't ask questions. He just gave her the kind of affection she thought didn't exist. The kind that writes little notes and sticks them in lunchboxes. The kind that talks about forever like it's real. But forever had a shadow. And his name was Gregory Bender. Gregory wasn't the kind of man who disappeared quietly. He was 50. A successful hedge fund manager who lived in a gated mansion with enough security cameras to watch the wind blow. But none of that mattered to Jessica anymore. She had walked away, and Gregory hadn't forgiven her for it. What started as texts turned into threats. What started as jealousy grew into fixation. What started as a breakup became a vendetta. I'll never let you be happy with anyone else, one message read. She had shown the screenshots to the police. Patrick urged her to file a restraining order. She did. But what does a piece of paper do when a man like Gregory Bender writes his revenge in ink? February 26, 2018. The warning. Jessica was nervous that day. She had found something. A message. Disturbing. New. It was buried deep in an old app she hadn't used in months. Gregory had left it there, like a trap. I know where he lives. I know what time he walks his dog. It's just a matter of when. She called the police. She printed out the messages. She made copies. She handed them in at the Volusia County Sheriff's Office and begged them to act. They need to look at him again, she told the deputy. He's dangerous. They promised they would. They said they'd make a note. They told her not to worry. That night, Patrick was unusually quiet. Jessica had sent him pictures of a bouquet she ordered. For tomorrow, she teased. 1 year since our first real date. He sent back a voice note. His voice, soft, sleepy, smiling. Can't wait, baby. Just can't wait. February 27th. In the morning. At 7:11 a.m., Patrick walked to his front door in boxers and a t-shirt. He thought it was FedEx. Jessica had said to expect a delivery. Roses, probably. Maybe something else. He had planned to propose that weekend. The ring was tucked inside his sock drawer, wrapped in a paper towel like it wasn't the most important thing he owned. He opened the door. What he didn't know, couldn't know, was that Gregory had been there since dawn, crouched behind the hedges. Dressed in all black. Gloves, hat, bulletproof vest. He carried a modified AR-15 rifle, and a printed map of Patrick's home, and detailed notes with timestamps, and one goal. 4 shots echoed through the neighborhood like thunder on a cloudless morning. The last one, a headshot, silenced Patrick forever. Jessica called. And called. No answer. Patrick was never like that. She drove to his house in a panic, only to find police already swarming the street. Flashing lights, a yellow tarp, and the silence that screams. They wouldn't let her near him. They didn't have to. She already knew. She dropped to her knees on the grass. The neighbors said she screamed so loud it startled the birds out of the trees. At first, the investigation stalled. There were no cameras, no forced entry, no witnesses. But Jessica kept saying one name: Gregory Bender. She told detectives about the threats, the stalking, the restraining order. They listened. They say grief makes time collapse. For Jessica Devnani, the days after Patrick's murder were a blur of sirens, sobs, and sleepless nights. She moved like a ghost in her own skin. The same house where she once sent Patrick voice notes and sweet texts now felt like a crime scene of its own. Memories everywhere, love letters turning into relics. But grief wasn't the only thing haunting her. It was the feeling that Patrick's killer wasn't done yet. That Gregory Bender, the man she had feared for nearly a year, had written his hatred in chapters, and this was only the climax. Initially, there was insufficient evidence to arrest Bender for the murder. However, a breakthrough came when Bender's ex-wife, Damara Sanchez, revealed that she had discovered a notebook containing a detailed plan to kill Patrick. This information led to a search of Bender's home. The detectives knew it almost immediately. Patrick's death wasn't a crime of passion. There was a mission, a hit, an execution carried out with chilling precision. 2 days later, they got a warrant for Gregory's home. What they found behind his locked safe would haunt them all. Inside was a handwritten, step-by-step plan for murder. Maps, surveillance notes, details on Jessica's car, Patrick's routines, their schedule. He had even written "No witnesses" in all caps. It wasn't just premeditated. It was obsessively orchestrated. Gregory Bender had treated murder like a business strategy, and he almost got away with it. When investigators raided Gregory Bender's mansion in upscale Windermere, Florida, they found a home that looked more like a fortress than a residence. Security systems, private gates, hidden cameras. But the real horror was inside the safe. Detectives cracked it open with a warrant Jessica helped push for. She had told them again and again he planned this. He told me he would. Inside the safe was a folder thick with papers, a printed map of Patrick's home and neighborhood, detailed surveillance notes, a list of timestamps noting when Patrick typically left home, walked his dog, and went to bed. A handwritten plan titled Operation Recon, with a bullet point reading, "Eliminate target. No witnesses." This wasn't an impulsive act. It was a premeditated murder at its most terrifying level. On February 27, 2018, one day after Jessica turned over the latest threats from Gregory to authorities, Bender took action. He left his home before dawn, driving across counties with a loaded AR-15 style rifle, dressed in all black. He parked several blocks away from Patrick's home in Deltona, Florida. He had planned the route, had rehearsed the escape. Bender crouched behind hedges for over an hour, waiting. At 7:11 a.m., when Patrick opened the door, expecting a delivery Jessica had told him to look out for, Bender fired 4 times. One of the bullets went through Patrick's eye. He didn't stand a chance. Jessica's grief becomes fire. Jessica was shattered. But as the days passed, sorrow hardened into resolve. She wasn't just a grieving fiancée. She was a woman who had tried to prevent this, who had sounded every alarm, filed a restraining order, provided screenshots of violent messages. And still, it happened. "I knew he'd do something," she told the press later. "But no one believed me. Now Patrick's gone." Jessica began combing through every message Gregory had ever sent her. Emails, voicemails, old chats on apps she no longer used. She needed the court to see him the way she did. Manipulative, obsessive, and unhinged. But what police didn't know yet, what Jessica would find next, would send chills through the courtroom and make even the detectives flinch. She had one more piece of evidence. Something Patrick never saw. Something Gregory never meant for anyone to find. And it could change everything. During one late-night scroll through a backup folder on her phone, she found it. A message he had sent months earlier. One that now felt like prophecy. The message that said it all. It read, "If I can't have you, no one will. I'd rather see him dead than see you happy." But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came weeks later, when Jessica returned to Patrick's house with his parents. They were collecting his things: shirts, cologne, the ring he never got to give her. She was standing in the bathroom, staring at the mirror. Her face looked like someone else's. Something caught her eye. A slip of paper, wedged behind the vanity. Folded. Discolored from moisture. She reached for it, curious. Unfolded it. It wasn't from Patrick. It was from Gregory. It read, "You should have stayed away. I warned you. I watched him. Every day. I know what time he wakes up. I know when you visit. This is on you." It was signed with a single letter, G. She collapsed on the floor, shaking. With the discovery of the note and the damning evidence from the safe, police had everything they needed. Gregory Bender was arrested at his home and charged with first-degree murder. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. He just stared blankly as they handcuffed him in front of his multi-million-dollar estate. Inside his house, the AR-15 style rifle, the murder weapon, had been disassembled and partially hidden in a crawl space behind a false wall in his garage. He had cleaned it meticulously. But not well enough. Ballistics matched. DNA traces were found on the trigger. He had left a blueprint of murder. And now, he was caught in it. The trial would take years to begin. In the meantime, Jessica became Patrick's voice. She pushed for updates. Sat through every motion hearing. She faced Gregory Bender in court, watched him avoid her gaze like the coward he was. At trial, prosecutors painted the clearest picture yet. Gregory Bender was an emotionally unstable man who could not accept rejection. He had sent over 1,400 messages to Jessica, many of them laced with veiled threats and controlling language. Despite the restraining order, he had tracked her, stalked Patrick, and orchestrated the murder with military-like precision. Jessica took the stand, her voice cracking as she described how she had begged authorities to take him seriously. "I warned them," she said. "I warned everyone." The jury took just 4 hours to reach a verdict. Guilty. Gregory Bender was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But one thing still haunts Jessica. Justice, she says, is not peace. Patrick is still gone. And sometimes, when she closes her eyes, she can still hear his laugh. Jessica continues to honor Patrick's memory, wearing the engagement ring he never had the chance to give her. She has expressed frustration with the legal system, noting that the restraining order failed to prevent Bender from committing the murder. Patrick's family shares this sentiment, believing that more could have been done to protect him. The murder of Patrick De La Cerda is a tragic example of how obsession and jealousy can lead to devastating consequences. Despite taking legal precautions, Patrick's life was cut short by a calculated act of violence. This case underscores the importance of taking threats seriously and ensuring that protective measures are effectively enforced. Kindly share your thoughts about this story in the comments section. For more chilling stories like this, subscribe and turn on your post notifications.